Welcome everyone to today's open house webinar focusing on the recent launch of our open Orebody knowledge challenge together with the Think and Act Differently team. We kindly ask that you mute your microphones during this presentation. As always, we like to begin with the acknowledgement of country. We acknowledge and pay respect to the traditional custodians of the land and waterways in which we work from today. For myself personally, this is from Boorloo in Perth, home to the Whadjuk people. We'd love to hear from you in the comments section where you're dialing in from as well. We pay respect to the elders, past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, people here with us today. Your hosts for today, you've got myself, the friendly mustachioed host, engineer from Unearthed, Brett Triffett, practice lead at Think and Act Differently, Katie Hulmes, the head of innovation from Think and Act Differently, Jared Townsend, principal innovation from Think and Act Differently, and I've got my backup squad from the Unearthed team, Ed and Alex, to assist with the Q&A at the end. Rough agenda for today, I'll do the welcome and introductions. I'll then hand over to Katie to give us a background on Think and Act Differently and various opportunities. We'll then hand over to Brett and Jared to introduce the Orebody Knowledge Challenge and go into a bit more technical depth about the problem statements. And then we'll come back to myself to talk about the opportunity of the challenge and also give an update on ecosystem, on the TAD ecosystem. And then we'll wrap up with a Q&A at the end. So please post your questions in the chat at any time. And Ed and Alex will be eagerly awaiting to collate your questions so we can address them at the end of the Q&A session. Now hand over to Katie to talk to us about Think and Act Differently.
Thank you very much, Sam. And I'm coming into you today from the lands of the Kaurna people here in Adelaide in South Australia. So it's fantastic to be seeing so many new names, people I haven't met coming in on the attendee list. So welcome to our webinar. Just a quick background, when we're talking about Orebody knowledge here at BHP, we're really talking about the commodities in which BHP positions its portfolio. And looking forwards for BHP, it's really exciting to have three primary commodities in our portfolio that we're going after: copper, iron ore and potash. And these really are commodities that underpin the world in which we're raising ourselves and our families into and support those mega trends that shape what the world's going to look like going forwards. So I personally come from a background in a copper business, and I think it's really important as we think about the opportunities today that we reflect on the unique challenges and differences that copper, iron ore and potash do all have, and how that plays out in the opportunity we've got before us. If we just jump to the next slide, please. Super important to kind of just pause for a moment and think, why are we running one of these challenges, and what does this actually mean? So the world is changing around us every day. The commodities that we are looking to mine are collectively across the industry are getting deeper, lower grade, harder to find, and resulting in ultimately more waste and requiring more energy. We're seeing price pressures. I'm sure you're all feeling it in your businesses as well for different reasons in different ways. Society is expecting more of us, and you know, as an environmentalist from way back, I think this is a great challenge for us as a business and as an industry to continue to rise to those expectations and show what we're capable of. And discoveries are getting harder to find and taking longer to develop, and we just don't have time to wait that course anymore. So the context in which we're having to develop these commodities is changing. And if we jump to the next slide, please. We just have to think about this differently. And so what's fantastic about having Think and Act Differently as our brand of innovation at BHP is that we have the opportunity to inspire and invoke a conversation that is different. Now, we want to approach these problems with new lenses. They're not really new problems for the industry, but we have to address them differently. And how we come together and the actions we take can fundamentally shift or change the outcome. And we're inspired by the opportunity to do that together with those of you on the line and those that are interested in providing submissions into our challenge. We really do want to work to find the best solutions and the best capability across the ecosystem to come together and help us achieve our ambitions as an organisation. And we know we need to work together to get the outcomes we want to see across the resource portfolio we're building. Next slide, please. So what does it mean to actually connect in with Think and Act Differently? There are a couple of things that we like to do that we believe are unique, and it is about building and having an active ecosystem. And that is why you're here today, a part of this webinar. And I really thank you for giving your time to be a part of this conversation and expressing interest in solving these challenges together. We recognise that for you to be able to best support us, we need to be clear on the problem it is that we are trying to solve. And Brett and Jared are here today to help us work through that and answer your questions along the full value chain from exploration all the way through to closure in terms of the questions that we might be thinking of in relation to ore body knowledge. We need to connect people. And so whether that's connecting subject matter experts in the external ecosystem or the subject matter experts within our BHP internal ecosystem together, it's often about the right people knowing each other to take that next step together. And we really pride ourselves on forming those networks internally and externally. We hear all the time how hard it is to know who to call in such a large organisation. So if you don't know who to call or you're looking to connect with someone, I do encourage you to start with the team at Think and Act Differently and let them help us thread that network together. We want to close the loop and keep sharing. So one of the most exciting things about working in research or technology development is we learn things. But if you learn that and you keep it to yourself, it doesn't actually help the ecosystem get stronger. And so towards the end today, Sam will share a few of the insights that we're sharing back with the ecosystem from previous challenges and works that we've done. And it's really important that not only our team at Think and Act Differently share back what we've learned and what we've discovered, but I encourage you to all do the same so that together we can go further and stand on the shoulders of insights of the past. We have to work with real world data and samples. We have heard many, many times how challenging it is to get samples from mining houses to be able to bring back the right insights for us to then take action or make decision. And we also know that you need data if you're working on software solutions, whether it's understanding the applications of your sensors through to AI, ML applications. We understand that there are things that you need to be able to do a good job about that. And we are relentlessly focused on improving that process to ensure that you get access to what you need. So if you've got things that you are looking for from us, we do encourage you to be really clear about what it is you need to be successful. And I know the team will talk more about that today. And then we also understand that facilitating access to test sites or operational sites matters. What we're asking from everybody is to be clear on what they think they need in that space as well. So is it just data and samples, or is it test sites or operational sites? And we would like to be able to broker that for you. If we just jump to the next slide. We do have a joint venture in place, and I'm not going to talk a lot about this today, but one thing we do understand at Think and Act Differently is that BHP is not your only customer, and there is a market for your technologies and for your services in different places. And the 6 companies you see here on the line are really proud to be standing together in an industry-led collaboration, looking primarily at how do we help the scale-up phase of technologies and really trying to put a united voice out for how we do that. So if you are working with any of these companies and you think something you're doing in the ore body knowledge space should be collaborated on together, please let us know. If we're not already aware of it, we'd love to be thinking about opportunities to do that. And I think I'm getting close to the end here. So just touching in on our open house. So we have done a lot of these challenges before, and the one resounding message I hear is, so what happens next? What happens once you've finished a challenge? So if you're new to our ecosystem, I encourage you to stay connected as we work through this. But what we do is we end up with a number of submissions from around the world, and the team will work closely with every person that makes a submission to make sure we get feedback, and that we narrow down to the ones that we really do want to take forwards into the next phase of our activities. And that accelerator phase is where we really then hone in on the use case, the application, and the forward commercial pathway. What we're seeing is a down selection of around about 8 to 10 successful companies come through to that accelerator phase. And then from there, there are a number, often 2 or 3 companies that agree mutually that it is the right step to progress to the next stage. What we ensure is that every company that comes in leaves with something value add to that company, whether it's insight and feedback on their submission, or whether it's real live use cases around how their technology could adapt through that accelerator phase for a new or potentially changing market. And so what we'd love to do in future webinars is dig into some of our alum who have been a part of this and share with you some of their case studies and ask them to share with you what they've done, but also jump onto our website and have a look at some of our reports of our innovators that have progressed through the cohort phase and some of the insights that have come out. And might be final wrap from me, I think. Maybe one more to go, Sam, is there? No, I am handing over to the very safe hands of Mr. Triffett to take us from here. I look forward to hearing your questions. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Katie. Hi, everybody. My name's Brett. I'm a practice lead in the Think and Act Differently team here at BHP. Today, I'm going to just do a very high-level introduction to our Orebody Knowledge Challenge, and then I'm going to pass on to Jared, who's going to dig in a bit deeper on the technical side of things and talk you through a few problem statements that we're trying to think through. So you're all here today to hear about our open house Orebody Knowledge Challenge, and fundamentally this is about gathering better subsurface data to improve the extraction of critical minerals. And Katie put up a slide earlier on about the commodities that we're focused on, primarily copper, iron ore, and potash. And so, we're pretty open-minded in terms of your focus areas with respect of commodity. So, if you have a solution that is outside of those three, we still want to hear about it, because I think we're always looking to join dots and bring capability in from outside of kind of our core focus areas, and maybe we'll see some connections that others may not. And so, please don't be shy in bringing forward your solution, regardless. So the challenge is live at the moment, and Sam's going to put up a QR code later on in this prezo to link you up, and I think he's also put a link in the chat. So if you haven't registered already, get online and register. The challenge closes on the 6th of May, and then we'll go into a submission review process. So Katie's touched on, just a minute, Sam, I'm still working through that one. So fundamentally, this is the open house is about attracting capability. So whether you have a very specific solution that you want to bring forward, or whether you just have some capability in the Orebody knowledge space, we want to hear from you, regardless of what type of organisation you're from, whether you're a startup, whether you're an OEM, whether you're from an academic background, whether you're a lone wolf innovator. We really want to hear from you, regardless of what type of solution or what type of capability you have. So this is all about growing our ecosystem and growing our community. And so with that said, I'll probably just go to the next slide, please. Sam, thank you. So a little bit more about the scope specifically for this challenge. So many of you might have seen the stats around how long it takes to bring a new resource into production. And there's a really nice little study been done by S&P Global, and the reference is there at the bottom of the slide. And they looked at 127 mines globally across all types of commodities. And what they found was, fairly consistently, it takes about 16 years to bring a new resource into production. And of that 16 years, it's dominated by the Orebody knowledge and study process, effectively. So it's all of the work that goes into gathering information and then converting that information into knowledge in order to support the decision to go ahead and develop a new project. And so that's why we are bringing forward this challenge. We're trying to look for ways in which we can accelerate that process and then carry that new information or that new knowledge into production so that the operation can continue to benefit from it. And so, fundamentally, gathering Orebody information is slow, and we're still using the tried and true method of drilling hundreds of kilometres of drill holes. that's great for collecting information. We then need to convert that information into knowledge that it will allow us to make the right decisions and risk-based decisions. And so converting information into knowledge is slow. We spend hundreds of thousands of hours interpreting all the data that we gather and converting that into knowledge. And then maintaining continuity of that knowledge into operations is pretty challenging. So as teams move on from the resource to reserve process and then into operations, maintaining the continuity and the usability of that data and continuing to add to that data requires a real commitment to capturing, curating and protecting data. So we're really kind of focused on that. We're very focused on kind of the full range of orebody knowledge. So what do we mean by orebody knowledge? It's geology, it's geotech, and it's geometallurgy. So think about all of the information that's needed to make a decision to develop a mine and also operate a mine. So whether it's resource-specific information, tons and grade, structural information, geotechnical information, but also geometallurgical information, ore hardness, flotation recovery, leach recovery, product quality information, hydrology, all of those things that are needed to successfully get a mine up and running and to operate it. So that's fundamentally the focus for this challenge. And so I'm going to pass to Jared now, and he's going to dig in a little bit more on a few of those areas.
Brett, my name's Jared and I'm a geoscientist, originally from exploration background as a geophysicist, and I can vouch for Brett's numbers there, having had the luck of being on two discoveries, the Gold Rush Formol deposit in Nevada and the Alturas del Carmen deposit on the Chile-Argentinian border. And certainly that timeline to capture all that data, it is in above 10 years. And so the focus here today is about putting the challenge out to see how we can accelerate that timeline to get the certainty of the subsurface 3D knowledge. And so I've got three problem statements. There's one on the next slide as well, but I'll just show you what I've done. The focus area, so a bit of a subject title, and then a few dot points about the problem, and then putting the challenge out in that question below. So the rock in between drill holes is inherently heterogeneous, and that's including the ore and the surrounding rock. And so it's got complex structure, mineralogy, hydrogeology, stress, and we want to work out how to better understand that in between the drill holes. The current best practice is predominantly using drill holes. So that image down the bottom was probably created from all those blue vertical lines, and it looks probably a bit too good to be true. We know that is not, that would be very heterogeneous in the middle of that. But also the time that Brett mentioned. So a lot of these measurements need to go off to laboratories, and they can take months to get back that data back. And then that analysis, the hours and hours of analysis, we're looking at how we can accelerate that, probably with the power of machine learning and training some really sophisticated algorithms. There's also a way that we can introduce proxies instead of having to send to the lab, but we just need to be conscious that that might bring in some inaccuracies in our result. So yeah, the key challenge, first one, is how can we increase that fidelity and certainty of the in situ, so the subsurface knowledge of the 3D rock mass in between the drill holes. So that's our first challenge. The second challenge is how can we get rock faster from the subsurface? And this is drilling. So we know that the rock is quite hard. There's pretty slow penetration rates, and there's voids that can challenge the drilling. So we're looking at how can we use new approaches to drilling. So there's coil tube, there's laser, plasma, projectiles even. So these exist. We probably haven't seen them scaled up to a mining scale as yet. So we're looking at accelerating those. Any of those options that might be out there in the ecosystem, we'd love to hear about them. There's always going to be a challenge of bringing something new inside the gate of a BHP operation, but we've done that. So we know how to take those challenges on, but we'll probably start things off at a test mine where we don't have to jump through all the hurdles to start with. but really get something mature and ready to deploy at the operating mine site. So yeah, the key question there is how can we obtain the physical drill samples at a much faster rate and still maintain that quality and yeah, up to the standards of what we have now. So yeah, just some images on the bottom there. That's the standard drill rig in the middle, and then a picture of a plasma drilling process. So that's what I mentioned. Hasn't probably got up to a operational scale as yet, but we'd love to hear what's out there in the ecosystem. Next slide, please, Sam. So this third problem is about how do we keep all that data full fidelity and then keep it forever from the very start of life cycle, from discovery, and pass it to the resource modelling team at full fidelity, and then to the mine planning team at full fidelity, and then the waste management team, and make that flow of data through the value chain, maintaining, I'll say it again, full fidelity. So yeah, there's inherently different data types as we go down the value chain. So we're looking at trying to make them a lot more compatible, and also putting into modelling processes that start to inform each other and then go back up the value chain and improve how we would have done that and get better and better and better. So yeah, that's an elephant in the room. I'm referring to Open Subsurface Data Universe, OSDU, but we'd love to firstly have people understand that properly, and then secondly start to really leverage the power of having all that data in one format all through the value chain. Now the other piece is, I call it multidisciplinary data integration, and this is when you've got all the different pieces, the geochemistry, the petrophysics, the geophysics, and structural measurements, and putting all that into the box, crank the handle, and get something that's greater than the sum of the equal parts. Now we've got great compute power, we've got really fancy algorithms, data formats need to talk to each other, and all that data prep effort, it's now time to leverage that. So I think we'd love to hear what you've got out there in the ecosystem in that multidisciplinary data integration. And yeah, just that flow of information through the value chain. We see huge value drops when exploration passes it to the resource modelling team, who passed it to the mine planning team. We want to make that a much smoother flow. So anything that goes all through the value chain, we'd love to hear some ideas out there from the ecosystem. So yeah, I'll just hit those key questions. How can we integrate each parameter to deliver greater than the sum of the equal parts, and then develop those feedback loops to go back down the value chain and get better and better at these algorithms? And then we want to preserve that from the very start of life cycle right through to the end of life, and make those decisions optimal. So waste management decisions based on what we learned back at the exploration holes. And then, yeah, I've just stolen an image from the Mirror website, just essentially showing different data types in there. And then down below, we're getting really intelligent ways of scanning core trays, getting hyperspectral, getting just computer vision analysis, and then putting that back into our modelling. So we'd love to hear what's out there. Sam, I'm going to pass back to you.
Great. Thanks, Jared, Brett, and Katie. So the opportunity through this open call, open house process is for innovators to receive a range of funding, resources, whether that be data or samples, access to networks, whether it be within TAD or broader BHP or even to the joint venture members, and also technical support and mentorship. So we understand that innovation isn't a one-size-fits-all process, which means that depending on the technology readiness, the commercial readiness of your capability and your team, your journey is going to be different and unique. So we aim to Katie's point earlier, we're keen to hear where exactly you are on your journey and what we can do to help facilitate the next steps in your journey. A few updates on the Think and Act Differently ecosystem. We recently attended the Prospectors and Developers Association of Canada, or PDAC conference in Toronto, and spoke about the Orebody Knowledge Challenge to a standing room only event with Think and Act Differently partners and innovators, which Judged by Katie's big smile on the far left, it looks like it was a resounding success. We've also recently published 2 white papers on the learnings gathered from the Comminution and ISR cohorts. So feel free to read these for yourself on the TAD website. One big standout for me, particularly being involved in the build-up of the Comminution cohort, was the active willingness of innovators to collaborate and discuss things such as hybrid systems with different types of their technology together. And despite the fact that there were probably concerns that there were potential competitors given the high technology readiness and commercial readiness. So that willingness to collaborate is something that we really foster, and it's great to see that lived out in this cohort. We're also pleased to announce that the biometals cohort has recently been completed, with 7 innovators collaborating together with TAD on various bioleaching solutions. So currently analysing the findings, and we'll generate a report with the findings soon. In terms of the nitrous oxide challenge, which closed around mid to late last year, we have 2 finalists, and these are Thomas & Thomas and Curtin University, both progressing on to proof of concept experiments and some potential site visits to help explore how we can better capture, recycle future state gas emissions from leaching operations. We've also announced recently in February the outcomes of the Global Water Challenge in collaboration with Foundation, looking at ways to explore new water treatment solutions for BHP assets. So congratulations to the innovators from Cool Separations, Ecotechnal, Gradient, Tersa Earth, and Pavilion. This cohort will engage in a program to accelerate their technology and collaborate with their peers and navigate the mining innovation ecosystem with the support of Think and Act Differently. Lastly, we saw an enormous engagement in our most recent challenge, the Deep Mining Challenge, which focused on the challenging work environments faced when mining at depth, high temperature, high stresses, hypersaline environments, long haulage distances, all these kinds of conditions. The challenge closed last November with a resounding 99 submissions. And after a rigorous review process and establishing various alternative pathways and calls for various candidates, we've selected 5 finalists who we are currently working through scopes of work with. These companies include Lupex, III, Advanced Navigation, University of Chile, Honeybee Robotics, Intelligent Robotics, Veratio in collaboration with RockSense, InPraxis, and Special Teams. And the key areas that these teams are exploring in their scoped work include robotic automation solutions, which are mainly targeted for eliminating people deep underground, faster, higher precision survey technologies, dust removal from sensors, microseismic monitoring, and technologies that can also accelerate ore body knowledge gathering for deep underground mine planning and decision making. So looking forward to continuing to work with these teams. Hopefully we've been capturing your questions and you've been popping them in the chat. We've got our, as promised, QR code, which I'm sure Ed has been sending the link into the chat as well to get connected and register to the challenge. The next webinar will be in Spanish and in mid-April as well. So we'll now move on to our Q&A session. So I'll hand over to Ed to help facilitate this and start addressing some of the questions that we've got.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Brett, Jared, and finally Katie. Yeah, really enjoyed listening, and really great for me as well to understand the challenges in this ore body knowledge. space. So great to hear from Jared on exactly what the problems are. So I've been posting in the chat. There are some links there. So if you're able to follow along, I think there's some great material there. There are a few questions rumbling through, but if you've got any more questions, please just place them in the chat. I'm sure the team would love to understand what you might need from us to kind of either complete your submission, but also any more information that you might need just to understand the challenge a bit more. We got the experts in the room, so definitely come through in the chat and post your question. It's probably the first one's probably for Katie, I think. So a question from Mark around IP ownership. So when BHP has funded the development through TAD, what's the current IP ownership?
It's a great question, Mark, and it's one that we get a lot. I think it's really important that we remember that any IP you bring into this challenge is your IP. So anything that you bring from work you've done previously, products you're developing, what you're working on. Our process through the accelerator stage, that 12-week phase, is to keep it really simple. In that 12-week stage, we want to work with you through a really low touch, short scope of work in that phase to understand what actually is any IP that may be developed going forwards and what does that look like. So we don't see taking IP or even being involved in IP at such an early stage as a critical barrier to progressing. It's about ensuring we create the right enabling environment in that first 12 weeks of activity and engagement so that you have comfort in how things are going to progress. When I think about IP, I think more through the lens of value. I think this is about how do we create the most maximum value out of the technology we're looking to develop. And fundamentally, what we would like to see is technology accelerate to be commercially available and able to create the value that we can see in our business. So that's the conversation we want to have with you about how do we get this technology to the point of being available and able to be ubiquitously used. And IP would be one of many components that would need to be discussed about how we would do that. So I'd encourage you to be really clear on what you've got. Make sure you're open about that and come into a conversation with us. And let's focus on how do we get the outcome where we need to be for both parties to realise their own unique value.
Great, thanks, Katie. Next one, there's a couple of questions around TRL stages. So maybe Brett, you want to field this one because this is kind of in your portfolio of understanding where these solutions fit. So the question from Ronan and one from Fiona on what's the highest TRL? I guess we've got a question around TRL 9, but also what's the lowest TRL that we would consider? Fiona's working at a university, so she's kind of in that 1 to 3, and Ronan probably has a commercial technology that he'd like to bring to the table.
Great question, thanks Ed. I can see also there's a question from Seller as well, similar question about the minimum TRL. So this is one we deal with a lot as well, and I think the short answer is we want to hear from you regardless of what stage your technology is at. I think what I would emphasize though is that we need you to really think about the value proposition. So one thing we notice with a lot of submissions we've had in previous challenges is quite often innovators can't really clearly articulate their value proposition. So we want you to have the best go that you can at articulating your value proposition. We do recognise that particularly where you're coming in from another sector, it may be difficult to do that. So have the best go you can at it, and we will help you build that out as well, and that's part of the program that Katie talked about. And so whether you're a low TRL or a high TRL scenario, we want to understand what the value proposition is for your solution. I think the second thing I wanted to emphasize is be really clear about what you want from us or what you feel like you need from us. And so, we talked in the webinar earlier on about, is it samples? Is it access to site? Is it just exposure to the industry and other SMEs or OEMs? And that will really help us understand what the scope of work is for developing your technology to the next level. And so if you're a low TRL, have a low TRL solution, we want to understand what's your vision for how that might be developed. And also have a think about the commercialization pathway, because particularly solutions that come through from universities, don't always have a really clear commercialization pathway or some good thinking around commercialization. So have a think about that, and if you feel like you need support with that, that's something we can help with as well. So hopefully that provides a bit more colour to that question.
And if I can just jump in, something as you were talking, Brett, and I smile because when we were talking at the Prospectors Conference on the panel for the launch of this challenge, Kerry Turnock actually said that 3 words that really helped people think about their value proposition. And she used dull, dirty, and dangerous. And I thought, what a fantastic and really easy 3 words to think about if you're trying to write your value proposition. If something's dull, people don't want to do it. So how do you help them do that faster and easier and quicker to free them up? If something's dangerous, how do we take people out of doing dangerous work? And then, of course, if something's dirty, people don't want to be doing that. So how do we help get that done? And I thought, as a frame of reference, if people are struggling to think about their value prop, it was a great insight. I really liked it, so I thought I'd share.
So, and just one
Go on, Sam.
So just one final point to add to all of that, as to Brett's comment. If you are stuck on trying to summarize your value proposition, as the challenge lead, I'm here and available to answer any questions or try and help you along the way too, throughout the challenge. So don't have to wait until that final submission date. Feel free to ping us. We'll try and help you as much as we can.
Yeah, definitely. Great call out, Sam. There's also on the Unearth platform, there's a forum page. So if you sign up today, go on to the forum page. If you've still got a burning question, you can post it there. Sam gets an alert, and someone from the Unearth team will jump on. If we can't answer your question, we'll definitely connect you and get you an answer as soon as possible. Probably just a quick follow up on talking a little bit around submissions. We got Connor's asking, how long should a submission be? You're expecting a few paragraphs and summary or multiple pages. So I think the Unearth web platform should guide you through that process. Again, use the forum or connect with Sam if you've got any issues in doing that. I might just quickly throw to Jared. I think for me, Jared, if you can, I know you're on the submission panel review team. So is there anything that you're really looking for in terms of submissions that you think the submitters should be looking out for or should be kind of emphasizing?
I think probably being really specific, like staying too high level, we don't get to the bottom of what you're talking about. I think really being specific about what the value proposition is, how do you do it, how close are you to being able to do it, and just let us know to make those decisions on, do we bring you in, do we help you, or do we give you guidance elsewhere? Or I think being really specific on what the technical is, the boundaries or the challenges that you have, and then how we can help you.
Great. Yeah, and the submission should kind of give you a character limit. So feel free to kind of go up to that limit, but also, as Jared mentioned, we want succinct answers that can really help the review panel make a decision to progress you to the next stage. Actually, Jared, I'll just follow up with you. Mark has another question. I'm really interested to understand BHP vision for integrating all this data. I know we talked a lot on the exploration side, but there's this value of this data goes through the whole life of the asset, through clearly through operations as well. What's the vision, I think, there, and how are we making it available, storing it, making it available?
I think that was that Mark. I think probably agree that it's. Oh, I'm not sure if you've seen it done before, but it can be done very poorly, passing data from one group to another, even if they're in the same office. Like the resource modelers and the mine planners are down the hall that don't talk to one another. But if we can protect that value, make sure that there's no value drop as it passes to someone else in the value chain, I think that's the end goal. And depending on the operation, the teams, it can be done well or it can be done poorly. But let's try and remove that human factor and get really intelligent about how we do it. Yeah.
Great. So Nick's got a similar question here around the insight for the size of the project. So are we focused more on collection of data, I guess, at the core, or are we also interested about integration? I think the answer is of that data across the value chain. I think the answer is probably both. But is there a focus for you? Yeah, okay.
No, I think you fielded that one pretty well, Ed.
Yeah. I think the problem statements that we've gone into today that Jared's given a little bit more technical detail on, they are on the website on the platform as well. So sign up and you'll find those in the description. I think they really go across the entire value chain. They're also looking at, you know, both vertically and horizontally across how do we collect data better, faster at those specific data collection points, but then how do we also integrate those across the value chain?
Just to build on that, I think, and it kind of bundles a couple of these questions and conversations we're having in terms of higher TRL options, things that are out there. I would really encourage all of you to still put in your submissions and share with us maybe if you've got a product that is available and your challenge is actually getting it into a business and getting it ubiquitously taken up by the market. Share that with us as well, because we talk a lot about maybe the barriers to technology development, but one of the biggest impact levers we do have is to change the way we uptake the technology that is available today. And how do we think about how some of these technologies may need to stack together, to complement each other, to maybe report in a similar schema, to be interpreted effectively. So really think about if you are in that higher end of the technology readiness level, and you are actually offering something that could be used quite quickly, have a think about what the barrier has been for you, because I do think that'll force the right conversations for us during the panel reviews and during the construction of what our next steps are together. So I really, really encourage you to keep reaching out on those things. I'd love to hear from many of you that I've seen out in the ecosystem for years. You've got some great capability in your organizations and great things available. We just haven't been able to see them get to scale. So in terms of being available on all of our assets, I'd love to hear that.
Great, thanks, Katie. Also, just to mention that on the platform, when you do put in your submission, there's a public section for the submission, also private. So there'll be a public submission part, which will just kind of give you a brief, it will just publish a brief overview of your technology, which is great for visibility for everyone. But the main substance of the questions will be kept private, and they'll be part of the review panel. So please feel free to just kind of check that out. If you're obviously higher TRL, you got commercial considerations, just make sure that you're comfortable with both, and you can keep that public part private as well. Just a quick question from James. Sam, I think this one's for you. Looks like probably James has been reached out from Jake or yourself, Sam, as part of our engagement in the ecosystem for a one-on-one meeting with you and Jake. Do you want to give him a quick overview of what that might look like, and then?
Yeah, sure. So normally we hope to hear back from you within the week of receiving an email regarding a one-on-one session. If that hasn't been coordinated yet, then please get in touch directly via email, and we'll try and progress that as soon as we can.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Sam. And also, just to mention, as part of the review submission as well, we host TAD one-on-ones. So we'll be contacting innovators as part of the submission, post-submission review, just to get to understand your technology a little bit more in detail, and connecting with Jared and Brett and the rest of the review panel team. We had so many submissions to Deep Mining Challenge that we had to split the panel quite considerably, and so Sam had a big logistical challenge of getting everyone's calendars in line. Last time we had 99 submissions, so it was great to see. It's a good problem to have on our side when we get so many submissions, but we've got to have these larger review panels. But really looking forward to seeing everyone in those one-on-ones. Next question. So this one's for Jared because it's quite a specific technical one, and I know it's in your domain of geo. I used to be I'm a reformed geophysicist. Do you know if there's routinely do downhole geophysics in your drill core for copper deposits? This one's for Melanie.
Certainly the importance of petrophysics is becoming well understood for constraining models. And it's getting much better and better. Like the geologists are planning their drill programs to have wireline logs now, which is that's what we need to be doing. It's taken us 5 or 10 years to get to that point, but certainly now the geologists are pulling for that data. So yeah, then when I talk about that multidisciplinary data integration, petrophysics is one of the inputs in that. And so we're getting value. The geologists are realizing the value. Instead of just seeing it as another line item on their drill program and like, why are we collecting this data? We're actually utilizing it now in our multi-physics models. So yeah, good question. And we should keep doing more and more in situ petrophysical logs. Yeah.
Great, thanks, Jared. One here from Simon Lithogicu. How competitive is the challenge, and is there any pre-established max number of projects selected, or is it based on merit? Maybe Brett, that's one for you. Kind of feel. How do you feel? Like, I think I know the answer to this, but yeah. So, are there a number of projects that will be selected, or
number of people on the intake?
Yeah.
So yeah, it really is merit based. Yeah, I'd just stop there.
Yeah.
I would challenge you all to remember how big BHP is. And the challenge for my team here on the line today is to think about what are the multiple routes and pathways into BHP. Some of your technology may need to be part of our accelerator model to go forwards to the next step. But on the deep mining challenge, we haven't talked about the number of companies that were passed direct to business contacts in the business and were able to progress outside of the Think and Act Differently portfolio. So we've even got some examples where the work we've had to do as a team is to support the back-end procurement construct and set up to just enable the work to progress faster. So really get crystal clear on what your barrier is and what your step is. I just can't reinforce that point strongly enough because that really steers our resources in the right direction. There's lots of routes that we could potentially take, and if the merit's there and the value's there, I always say great work gets done. So let's be really clear on that.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Katie. A quick question from Cress. Most the challenge statements focused on exploration, but probably they also focused on getting more information during operations and during production. Would the panel, would the team be interested in a solution for characterizing the interior of heap leaches? I know I've done a challenge on this previously, but probably Jared, you want to comment on heap leaching?
Certainly, I guess anything subsurface we're looking at characterizing, and so that can be mining infrastructure as well, and optimizing those heap leaches. Probably understanding the flow of cations is more important than just understanding saturation as a bit of a tip for heap leach characterization. Yep.
Right. Any more? I've got a quick question. So if this one's probably for Katie. I'm gonna what do they call it? A Dorothy Dixon, where they kind of like put up a question in Parliament that's like easy to answer. So Katie, if people don't see the specific relevance, I guess, for their technology to this challenge, is there anything else that they can do to engage with TAD?
Absolutely. So one of the things about the open house is there's two streams of the open house. There's the always open, and then there's the campaigns. And this is a campaign at the moment, Orebody knowledge following on from the deep mining. But there is a real desire from us to hear about things all the time, and we do regularly kind of triage those that come in outside of a cycle. So if you're sitting here on the line thinking this particular campaign challenge is just not my jam, it's not my topic, I don't think I can fit in that, but I've got this great thing, or I know of someone that I really want to connect through, we would encourage you to submit it at any time. And I'm sure the team can chuck a link in for that. Go on to the thinkactdifferently.com website, either join the ecosystem and reach out there, or jump into the open house, always open part, and it'll be run very similarly behind the scenes.
Great, thanks, Katie. Definitely encourage you. Yeah, scroll up in the chat. I did post some links to the Think and Act Differently website, and also the Unearth platform as well, where you can find more information. But definitely the Think and Act Differently website is your first port of call. There's some great links there. Join the ecosystem, Unearthed and BHP send out emails and newsletters all the time. There's also other challenges, as Katie mentioned, coming up quite regularly. So please engage. The more you engage, the more opportunities we have to solve some of the biggest problems. Quick question on the recording. Yeah, so we will post the recording, this webinar, up shortly afterwards. Once we finished editing it and downloading it and putting it up on the website, it'll be available. And then Alex, if you join this webinar, then Alex will send you a nice email showing you where you can download that from. Quick question from Ibrahim. Jared, maybe this one you can answer, but are we interested in geotechnical data? So X could be excavation of developments, or we're in that kind of development stage of mine construction, or are we just interested in earlier stages?
No, certainly using both the parametric measurements that we take to do the mine planning, but we're also using things like fiber optic sensing and looking at how it did perform and feeding that back into our models. So certainly geotech's a big focus. We're not just about the ore, we're about how the rock's going to perform as well.
Great. Awesome. I think, unless there are any more questions, I think we've come to the end. Do we want to, Katie, do you want a quick wrap up, and then we'll hand over to Sam to close it out?
Yeah, look, I'm just going to reinforce the same points. The team are, as you've probably seen on the line today, they're really approachable. They're easy to work with. They want to be challenged and ask lots of questions. So there's so many ways to reach out to the team and ask questions. I always say the power of an ecosystem is keeping it alive. So what you put in is what you can get out. And so I'd encourage you to be brave, ask questions, reach out to the team, and just see where the opportunity can take us together.
Great. Thanks, Katie. Back over to you, Sam, to close us out.
Great. Well, thanks everyone for joining. Thank you so much for joining and assisting us, Katie, Brett, Jared, and Ed, and Alex. Please feel free to get in touch. I've just posted my email in the chat. If you got any questions, need any assistance with your submission, if there are any questions that you didn't ask today that you may come up with in the next few days or weeks, then yeah, we'd love to hear from you and assist you as best as we can. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a great day, night, morning, wherever you are. Thanks, everyone.